All right, so now here's a different view of the directional aspect. So we're going along. I'm going to slide my hand down. And then there's some important things I want you guys to notice here. The first thing is my wrist and my fist. Look how tight my wrists and fists are. Everything is strong. There's no broken wrists. And then the other important thing is that my hands are fully wrapped around my rein. Very often, especially when we feel like our horse is going to brace against us, we end up opening our hands, like our pinky goes out or our ring finger goes out and not actually wraps around the reins. And that's actually just what I call conflict avoidance. Because especially if you're riding a horse that's bracy, when you take your fingers off the reins, it's your way of avoiding the tension and avoiding the conflict. And really, in order for a horse to really truly understand your cue, especially one that's tense, you need to make sure that all 5 fingers are wrapped around and your fists are as strong as they can be. That's also why we want you to have a strong arm and not bent wrists. So that wrist aspect there, I don't have a broken wrist. My hand is kind of, there's just a direct line like I just showed you. There's a direct line between my hand and the top of my shoulder. And that's the top of your shoulder is where all the strength really comes from. So you don't want to have a break in any of that area. You don't want there to be any breaks there. Otherwise you lose that strength. Then you can see her again beating me to the pole. And I slide my hand down. She beats me to the pole. Slide my hand down. So the other thing that's really important when we're asking for direction is your outside hand. So my outside hand never crosses my horn. It always will stop at my horn, but it never goes any farther across my saddle. The other really important thing is the side that is not getting pulled on needs to be loose and really encouraging your horse to bend. If we don't let that side be loose, what happens is the rein ends up tightening, which then creates tension on both sides of your horse because you're tightening on this case, you're tightening on the left side. But then if you don't have any looseness on your outside rein, you end up just making a really tight braced situation. So it's really important that your outside rein stays loose while you are pointing with your inside rein. And again, that's like what Richard Winter's video had talked about in terms of the steering wheel, where your hands need to be separate entities. They shouldn't be moving together. So let's just go back and watch this direction process again. I slide my hand down. My inside rein is out, and then my outside rein, which is my right rein in this case, does not cross over my swell, doesn't cross over my horse's neck. Again, slide down. And so in this case, when you have a horse that you've turned their nose the direction that you want them to go, my legs get involved to then tell my horse to follow that direction. And we'll talk more about legs in the future, but that's just so you guys know, I'm not pulling her anywhere. I am setting her face in a certain place. So I'm telling her, I want your face to go that direction. And once her face is pointed that direction, I then use my legs, both sides of my legs, we'll talk about that later, to get her to actually follow in that direction. And then her nose points the exact direction I had pointed her, or her body goes that direction. So that's really important too. It's that it's not about, we're not just pulling them to a certain place. The idea is to, with your hand, set them the direction you want them to go. So my hand is pointing that direction, which means her face now is pointing that direction. And I'll keep these arrows and you'll see her just line out straight in that direction. So that idea is really important. We don't pull them anywhere. We set them and then tell their body to follow where you've pointed their nose.